I'll get this started. So,
Alright.
I happened to be in Albuquerque over Thanksgiving, and everywhere I looked, there were like billboards, congratulations, Holm. You turn on the radio, they were talking about you, and it was almost like they were celebrating like a team winning the Super Bowl or something. Did you ever expect anything like that in your
No.
life, and what was it like to come home to that?
I didn't expect that. For Albuquerque, they've always been so supportive that I can't say I was like shocked by it, because that's how awesome they are and how supportive they are. But no, I never expected something like that. It was crazy. It was just a lot of love, and it was one of those overwhelming feelings. Like I don't know if I have enough of me to give back. All these people are being so supportive. It was just kind of an overflow of emotions for sure.
Have things changed? I mean, are you able to like leave and go do groceries without having you,
I
get
choose
stopped or
to.
anything like that?
I have to say there's a lot of like little distractions throughout my day. When you think that it's just going to be run in and grab some coconut milk real quick, it takes a little longer. But I choose to still do the things that I want to do. I don't want to be this like, just like hide out in my house, because then it's like, what does that mean that I think I am? I'm like, I'm too, this is just too much for me. I'm too good for that. That's just kind of a weird mentality, I think. So, I still do my own stuff. I still go to certain places, and I still try to keep the best normal schedule that I've always had.
Still in real estate?
I have not been active with it, but yeah, still in my life. And actually, I was just thinking, man, when things slow down a little bit, I need to do some of my continuing education, because every 3 years you have to have 30 hours, and I keep thinking that's going to happen.
Right.
So I'm probably going to be doing the crash course like in 1 week, like, oh my gosh, I need to do like 20 more hours right now before my license has to be renewed. But
Right. How do you feel about this matchup with Misha? A lot of people think that she actually could be tougher than Ronda.
she presents a whole different game than Ronda, and she's really unpredictable. She's really good in scrambles. She's really good. She's been through a lot of battles, and she's been behind in fights and come back. She's not one of those that you can mentally break in a fight, and to me, I think that's the toughest opponent you can be up against. And I feel like she's different style, and obviously we all know different styles make different fights. So I feel like this is definitely a really tough fight for me. But what else am I supposed to be doing here? I want to fight all the girls that are the best, because that's what makes the best victory. And obviously this is a really big challenge for me to take, and a lot of people think it was even silly. Oh, you should have waited for a rematch, or but for me, I think, well, my mentality and my thought was, well, if there's going to be a rematch soon, and we know this is going to happen, okay. But if not, let's have another fight, because that's what I love to do. I want to be competitive. I want to fight. And a lot of people see this as a whole different challenge and almost maybe a risk. But I mean, the whole reason why I'm sitting here right now is because I took advantage of the opportunity that was before me, when a lot of people thought it was too soon for me to fight Ronda. And so I'm just going to keep the same mentality that I've always had, is just make the best of each opportunity and let the cards unfold. Train hard for it and be ready for it. But that's what I'm in this for, is the fight game. And I've always said passion first, everything else falls into place. I don't know how many times I've said that. That's probably like my main thought process for me. And so that's what I want to do, is stick to the passion. My passion is fighting, and then, we'll go from there.
Certainly people were saying, well, you could be missing out on an even bigger payday if you just sat around and waited for Ronda.
Mm-hmm.
But you just mentioned it being risky to fight Misha. That was the whole point, is you just would much prefer to stay busy instead of wait for the big payday.
I told myself I would never fight for money or for fame. I would fight for passion. This is the next opportunity. This is the one I want to make the most. I don't want to think, well, I need to wait for, I don't want to plan it out. My mind doesn't even function this way. Like, if I wait for this, it'll be more money. That's just not how my brain functions. There's never a dollar sign in my mind when I'm thinking about a victory. There's never a dollar sign in my mind when I'm thinking about, my fighting career, because I want to do it for passion. When you start fighting, you start in amateurs, you don't get paid anything. You're paying money out. because you're having to pay for your way to get to the fight. You're having to pay for your own hotel. You're having to pay for your own gas. You're having to put miles on your own car. So you're putting money out in the beginning. And I try and keep that same passion that I had in the beginning. You know, I had just the want for victory, and that's it. It's just, that's the only thing on my mind, is to win.
How differently did you have to train preparing for Miesha Tate?
Every fighter's so different, and this is a completely different fight than Ronda. I mean, their backgrounds, one's, you know, obviously judo is a long, you know, background there. But that's not the only thing that Ronda is good at in a fighting. Miesha's background is mainly from wrestling, but that does not mean that's the only thing she's good at. Are they two different fighters? Absolutely, but they're both, you know, pretty well rounded in a lot of ways. And so I'm training for a lot of things. And I was just saying earlier that in order to train for these fights, I feel like I want to obviously train to counter what they're great at, but I also want to do things that make me excel. For my last fight, we kept saying, you know, like, everybody asks, are you practicing your armbar defense? I mean, that's kind of, to me, that's like a silly question, obviously. It's like, obviously, you know, and to counter her judo, obviously we're training that. But I don't want to just defend arm bars and defend, you know, hip tosses and defend off the cage, because when you're just defending, that's not necessarily getting a victory. You know, I want to be able to defend those, but yes, I want to be able to excel in the things that I do, because that's what gets a victory. If I'm just on the defense the whole time, that means she's on the offense. That means she's going to win the fight. I'm not going to do that. I want to be prepared for all of it. And same thing, mentality-wise, for this fight with Misha. I don't want to just worry about, oh, you know, she might try and, you know, run a double leg on me. It's like, well, okay, yeah, obviously she's probably going to try something like that, but there's things that I want to do to excel, and there's things that I need to practice defending. So it's always a chess match, offense and defense, 100% all the time.
So you mentioned that money's not a motivation, but just winning. Now that you've won and you're the champion, is your legacy now part of that motivation?
Right, I don't want to be a one-hit wonder, I guess, is probably the biggest thing I've been saying about that. You know, I don't want it to be this just one performance. I want to show people that I'm here for a reason. And for me, I want to keep going. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep learning. I don't want to, trust me, the last fight was one of the best moments of my life, but I don't want my whole career to be defined by one fight. I don't want my whole, you know, life to be focused on that. I have things, there's a fight ahead of me now. I don't even feel like I have the belt. I feel like I'm still, you know, going in to prove something and to fight for it, because I want to stay hungry. So.
Do you feel, because of this, now that you have the belt, that you have more to prove? Do you feel like you have more to lose? Is there more pressure?
I feel like every fight has had pressure. My entire career, if it's somebody that you're supposed to beat, well, there's pressure, because then it's almost like a no-win situation. If it's somebody that is supposed to be you, well, you have to really kind of dig deep and have your own mental game behind it. So it's just always, there's always a pressure. My first UFC fight, the debut, was this big anticipated thing and all this hype behind it, and I knew that I wouldn't live up to, you know, it's like when you talk about a movie that's so great and then you go watch it, it's not so good, you know, but one that's kind of got good ratings but you haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, you go watch it and you're like, wow, that just, you know, that was awesome. I feel like to live up to the hype and the debut was just, I don't even think I could have done that. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, her first fight's out of the way, you know, the octagon jitters are out of the way, so now what are we going to see? And then it was, oh, well, now it's Ronda, so, you know, is she even ready? And then after Ronda, it's like, oh, well, after that knockout, what more is she going to show? I mean, every fight has its own pressure, so there's a lot of pressure behind this. You know, people are really curious to see, what am I going to do after a victory like that? Where am I going to go from here? Am I going to show something new? Am I going to show something more? It's a different fight. That's all there is to it, and I'm just going to be ready for it.
With all your hard work, you feel like you got the respect that you deserve?
You know, I feel like all the hard work definitely has paid off for the fact that I feel that sense of, you know, self-accomplishment. I think a lot of people ask, you know, do you feel like you're getting enough attention compared to, you know, this person, that person? It's like, I don't even think about it. I just think awesome, I won. Victory, that's all. And that I want that feeling again. I don't want it to just be, like I said, I want to live in that moment forever. It was a great moment to take in while it was there, but I have a whole different fighter in front of me, and I just want victory again.
What's it been like trying to balance the demands of everything you're doing outside now with the training, and what was that like leading up to this fight? Was that difficult?
It has been a big balance, and I think that, after the fight on the Victory Tour, I said, I'm just going to pretty much say yes to everything. That way, the closer it gets to the fight, I can start shutting things down. And, I just schedule my training around it. I knew I'd be gone here today, and Monday's a pretty big day of training at home, so instead of taking Sunday off, I'll take Monday off, and I trained yesterday. Put in some hours of work before I got on the plane to come out.
Do you go back to Albuquerque after this, or do you go?
I go
right
tonight.
Yeah.
Straight back to Albuquerque. I want to be in Albuquerque as long as I can. That's where my training partners are. I mean, you can only do so much training on your own. I need a body in front of me. I need somebody to push me hard, and my teammates will do that. There's a lot of times, my teammates are pushing me, and I'm frustrated. I'm crying after practice, and they're like, "You're gonna make me cry, man, but that belt's gotta stay here." I'm like, "No, I'm glad. I'm not crying because you're hurting me. I'm crying because I'm frustrated that I didn't maybe perform as good as I should have, but I need you to push me that hard." This is, I tell them all the time, this is not a charity case.
Was it important to you to prioritize that training time over the other obligations, leading up into this fight?
Oh, training first, always. And there's a lot of opportunities of things that people ask, I just say no to going to the Super Bowl for my team, and they win. Those are the things that you have to really just. And like I said, if it would have just been one day, I would have flown up there on a Saturday and come home on a Sunday. That would have been my day off. And trust me, it would have been a great day off. But just the way that things were scheduled and having to balance, it just didn't work out. And those are the times where, right now, I feel like there's so many opportunities I can grasp onto. But if I take every opportunity, it's going to take me away from training. And if I'm taken away from training too much, then for me, mentally, I already know I wouldn't be ready. Physically, I feel like I'm still, in shape. I've been training since my last fight, but even then, you're physically not as ready. You're mentally not. If I can't train, then I'm not mentally ready.
Has anything surprised you about what it is to be champion and everything else that comes with it, or is it about what you expected coming in?
I don't think anything surprised me with it, especially with a fight like this. The reason why this was such a big victory, is because she was that dominant. So there was, and I knew what I was up against, so I knew that if I was going to be the one to take her down, there was going to be this big uproar everywhere. I knew that. So I can't say it was a surprise that it was going to be, busy, but it's just, it's something you just got to take with it.
What did you think when you heard what she said about being suicidal after the fight?
I keep wanting to make sure that everybody knows I don't ever take anything like that lightly. It's a very serious subject. I've never been in that position. I'm probably the worst person to ask for advice on that. I definitely don't want to sit here and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," because I know for me, a competitive mind, and I'm confident that Ronda's the same, that you don't really want sympathy from the one that created this. That almost makes it even more frustrating. I do hope that obviously she never really entertains that, and I think the best thing really, like I said, my advice is probably not that I've never been there before mentally, but I definitely think it's always a good thing to surround yourself with people that you trust and people that can support you and care about you.
What are your thoughts on her comment of saying that she is still undefeated?
I feel like that's okay with me. Maybe that's something that is coming out of a mouth that doesn't really want to fully take in everything. I know for me, any loss that I've had, I look at it like it is a very, very hard thing to swallow, but you got to be honest with yourself. And when I've been there, but everybody's mental game is different. For me, when I've been there, I lost that fight. Why did I lose that fight? I lost focus. I didn't perform well. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And for me, I needed to be honest with myself in order for me to get better. I didn't want to feel like, oh, that was just kind of a freak deal, you know, because then I feel like I wouldn't have changed things. And like I said, if you're quoting all this is how my mind works. I'm not saying this is how other people's mind's supposed to be. This is how my mind works. So maybe she needs to feel like that's her mentality. Maybe she needs to feel like she's undefeated and on top. And that's okay. For me, whenever I've had a loss, I want to say, yep, why did I lose? Let's dig deep. It is a hard pill to swallow, trust me, especially if you're in this, if this is your career, you have a little bit of ego. You have some, otherwise you don't do this job. So trust me, it's a hard one to take when you have a loss, to really just sit down and be honest with yourself. Why did I lose? Because when you answer those questions, you're answering imperfections about yourself. That's not fun, but
Is that bulletin board material for next time?
maybe.
Maybe? You don't think about it yet?
No. No, I don't think about it. I just, honestly, I think that my brain's just, I feel like it's simple. Maybe other people think it's complicated. Let's just train hard and get a victory, because life's better with wins.
There's no looking ahead then?
Nope.
You've spoken about when you lost to Matisse by knockout,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there were some dark days at that point, but you never got to the point where you thought, I want to kill myself, or I want to commit suicide.
You know, I think that every situation is different. For me, I got knocked out. I got my eye stitched in the locker room, and I went out to the press conference that night. And I told myself, I need to face this right now. I mean, I'm not gonna go. The longer I wait to face it, the inevitable is there. I'm gonna have to face it no matter what. Let's just do it now, so I can get past this. The sooner I can deal with it, the sooner I'm gonna be beyond it. And you know, my trainer came to me actually right before the press conference. I was upset, obviously crying. I'm upset. Your heart's broken. And he said, you know, you're gonna go out to that press conference and they're gonna ask you about a rematch. And I said, yeah. And he goes, you know what you're gonna say? I said, what's that, sir? And he goes, Muhammad Ali got knocked down. He came back. He's a legend. Why am I any different? So heck yeah, I'm capable and I'm gonna do this. And I think before I even had time to give myself doubt, he already was picking me up. So I can't say, like, there's no way I could have maybe gone through all that without all of the help, but it started there. And obviously I had help from every single loved one around me, but it started there. Started picking me up right there before I could leave and even have those dark thoughts. You know, for me, I would never get that low with a loss. I feel like, and maybe I'm a selfish person. I think I just want to get back and win now. For me, you know, it's frustrating. It is, and you deal with a lot of doubt in your mind. And am I really not as good as I thought I was? I mean, obviously those are the questions that go through your mind. It's just, you have to be honest with yourself and think, well, maybe not. Obviously you need to get better because this fighter was better than you tonight. And, you know, I went out to the press conference that night, and I remember most of it. I do remember a lot from that night, but I remember just them asking me, you know, are you okay? How do you feel? And I'm like, I don't physically feel bad, but I'll tell you, my ego hurts the most, you know, and that's the biggest part of it.
There was a famous, well, I guess not famous, but Ronda was quoted before the fight saying you wouldn't be able to handle all the trappings of being the champion and all the things that come with it and all of the responsibilities. How do you feel about that now that you actually are living that life?
Every time they ask me to do something, it's because of what? Victory. So I think I can handle that pretty well.
How do you know, it's funny though, people love to complain about the fact that she's not the champ right now, but she's doing Sports Illustrated. She's not the champ right now, but she's on XYZ television show. I think they kind of want you to be mad about it. So let's ask you, how do you feel about the fact that she is still getting promotion where some people believe it should be you instead?
Personally, all those things I think are awesome to experience and to take in. So I would love to have experiences. However, my job is my passion, which is fighting, and that's what I still am being able to do right now. So I see that as a perk for me. If I had some time off in between a fight, then I would like to. But right now, I don't feel anything about it because I've got a fight in front of me, and that would actually, I wouldn't be able to actually enjoy those things right now. If I was in training, I'd be, trying to rush in, rush out, and not really being able to enjoy it. So I'm okay not having that. It's a good thing I have, good management and training coaches and everything around me to help me with that, because otherwise I'd probably just fight and not have any of those opportunities, and they help, set those opportunities up. So I'm glad that they're there because they are fun.
Would you have gone for the body paint?
I'd go for a suit.
Yeah.
Nothing against it. I just personal preference. I go for a suit.
And the room is quiet.
Hopefully, a really cute one.
Do you admire, or what other athlete do you admire or look up to outside the UFC?
Outside of the UFC, I can't just name one athlete outside of the UFC that I admire. I think that I truly admire just sports. I mean, I can't pick anything. I mean, when the Olympics are on and I see all these gymnasts and how athletic they are, I can't help but want to watch them. When I see a good, football game, obviously I'm going for the Denver Broncos, but it's, you see like a really good competitive game, how do you not want to watch it? I even find, I'm not even into tennis, but I see a good match on, I start seeing myself getting into it, And, we went to a Lobo game, just our college basketball team the other night. It was a great game. Ahead the first half, down 15 in the second half, and then we came back and, we win by like 2 points in the, the very end of the game. So, how do you not get into that? I just love sports, and I think that I love underdog stories. I love a good game. I just love sports. So.
Are you into the NBA? Kobe Bryant last season with the Lakers.
I didn't follow it a whole lot. I'd have to say professional basketball. I love to watch in person. On TV, if there's gonna be a game on, not that it's the same season, but on TV I prefer to watch football, I think. But basketball games I think are one of the most fun things to do in person, and so are football games. They're all fun. I can't even decide. But I didn't really follow a whole lot of that.
You speak Spanish or not?
I wish I did. My life is not over yet. I want to learn it.
Do you get a lot of Hispanic fans where you live, or you get approached by them?
Oh, that's one of the main reasons I wish I knew Spanish, is because there's so many Spanish-speaking people where we are, and I would love to know that language. Like I said, I'm still young. I have time to learn.
Have you spoken to the UFC about you headlining a card in Albuquerque? Because I would imagine that would probably sell out in like less than a second.
I haven't, and that's why I'm so glad I'm surrounded by, like I said, a really good manager, agent, and I've fought at home the majority of my career, and they are very supportive. I feel like it would be a huge sellout, but I've really enjoyed being able to fight on the road. It's a whole different. So whatever they want to put together is just
You got a lot of support in Australia.
I did.
It was a little surprising. Was it surprising for you?
I think that we have a couple of, you know, teammates from Australia. I did get to go there and travel once, and I mean, they're really neat people. I really, really love them, and one of the things they've always been known for is going for the underdog. So hopefully they're still going to follow me, though. You know? You're not always the underdog.
We will. Let you know.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Well, do you think the UFC has done a good job building the women's bantamweight division? I mean, I think after you signed, there's only been 2 new women signed to the division. I think they were both the result of injuries happening, short notice fights.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you look beyond Misha and Ronda, like, do you think there's, you know, they're doing a good job building contenders for down the line? And just, I'm not trying to get you to take shots at Sean Shelby or anything, but what do you kind of see?
That's a really good question, and I guess I haven't put much thought into it. I really just, I feel like it's, I don't mean to sound in a bad way, but I almost feel like for me it's like a waste of time, my thoughts in the day to like worry about things that aren't in my control. What can I control? I can control the fact that I can train right now and make the time worth it, and you know, then in between that I think, you know, I want to go have lunch with my husband today. I want to go, I mean, I want to keep things like simple outside of whatever's, I mean, a fight is, a training camp is pretty chaotic, you know, you're constantly on the go, and no matter what I think about what they do, I feel like, how can I not say that they've done a good job? This is the most exposure women's MMA has ever had, so I do think they've done a good job. Their next step in what they're doing, and if they're doing a lot right now, I guess it's just not something that I feel like for me, what can I do? I can fight well, because then people are going to want to watch it, and in turn then people are going to want to promote it, and in turn there's going to be more attention. So I guess I don't really think about what everybody else is doing for our division. I think about what I just want to fight well, and I feel like with that comes, you know, everything else. You get a good passionate fighter in there, then that's going to bring more attention to it.
Yeah, just the reason I asked is because when this all started, and Ronda kept saying, you know, or people who were critical saying, if Ronda Rousey's not here, is the UFC going to keep this division going, all that kind of stuff, and obviously you being the champion now, clearly it's still here. So is that something you think about, those, like when you're gone, you want the, you know, health of women's MMA in the sport, or do you not feel like that's your responsibility?
I feel like you, as far as a comment like that, like, you know, without Ronda, would there be, well, Ronda can't fight without competitors, so I feel like we're all here fighting and competing, and I think that Ronda being there, she was obviously, still is, something that brings the UFC a lot of attention, and beating her, that brings a lot of attention, and then if somebody else came in and tried to have another big upset victory, that so brings a lot of attention. So I think that it starts with a good champion, but I feel like if there keeps coming these girls that are taking them down, then there's no way that it's going to go away. It's going to be there for sure. I don't think it's going to go away.
Are you tired of answering questions about Ronda yet?
You know what? I feel like it's been one of the main things, even from when I first signed. Hey, so when are you going to fight Ronda? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't even had my UFC debut yet. You're the ones with the questions.
Are you tired of it?
Uh-huh.
Are you tired of it?
If it's not that question, it's going to be something else, so whatever.
I think even before you were signed by the UFC, you got that question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, when then it was like, so when are you going to sign with the UFC? And if you do, how long do you think it'll be before you fight Ronda? You know, it's always like that. So.
You're fighting Misha, and everyone wants to know about the rematch. I mean,
Right.
can't get away.
And actually, I was in an interview earlier where they were asking about, you know, the whole Ellen DeGeneres show, and I said, well, how much time are we going to spend on that? Because I have Misha in front of me, you know. Or I said, I have my next fight in front of me, and actually the person I was talking to goes, oh yeah, who is that anyway? And I said, exactly, exactly. That is why we need to talk about this other stuff.
Can you speak to the difference in recognition from winning a boxing world title and the UFC title?
Oh, that's night and day. I know for me in boxing, my victories meant a lot when I knew what I was up against. So they were kind of a personal pride for me. A lot of people ask me even what's my most prestigious belt, and I think, well, it depends on who I fought. You know, sometimes my toughest fights weren't for the most prestigious belt. For me, it was the opponent. And so but that was for me. I knew what I was up against. I knew I was up against the best girls in the world. But the recognition and you know, a lot of the money behind women's boxing is just not there. I mean, that's not rocket science. That's just a factual thing. And people now are even saying, well, this is going to help women's boxing. And I mean, I'm like happy for that, because I want women's boxing obviously to have coverage, but then on the other end too, I'm like, well, where were you when I was boxing? Come on, guys. So I think that it takes people wanting to, you know, put it out there, and there definitely hasn't been a lot of, you know, it takes a lot for that. There has to be TV, there has to be sponsors, there has to be everything, you know, it can't just be the
Why do you feel that women's boxing hasn't caught on with the public the way women's MMA has? Is there anything you can pinpoint it to?
Right now, I feel like I know obviously the UFC just has such a big, I mean, so basically what they bring in is people are going to pay attention to it because they're just that big. I mean, you don't have, I think last year was what, like 43 fight cards? That's insane. And you just, right now, there's just not that attention around boxing. And, you know, there's always the big awaited fight. And I think when there's a big boxing fight coming up, it's like, you know, oh, wow, I really want to watch this one because it's been a while since a good one's been on. But there are good fights going on out there. They're
Right.
just not as aired. And hopefully they will be. I love to watch fighting. I love to watch any kind of, you know, martial arts in any way. I love to watch a good boxing match, and I love to watch a good MMA fight. I love to watch, I mean, even just straight Muay Thai fights are some of the most active things you'll ever watch. It just depends. I mean, it's just there's the science behind it, and I think that it's just I love to watch any of it. So I hope that there's a ton of following behind all of it. I'd like to see it all.
So what are you thinking about UFC 196 main event, champion versus champion? You know, since you enjoy competitive fights, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's, you know what? I think it's going to be a great fight. A lot of people, I'm curious to watch it. A lot of people are, you know, kind of don't really know what to expect on this. They think when people say, who do you think's going to win? Everybody's like, I don't know. I mean, Conor's going up in weight, and, you know, he's going up against one of the toughest guys in the UFC. But how's he going to do? But you know what? Conor's been able to really shock a lot of people and pull a lot of stuff off they didn't think he was going to. So I feel like it creates a lot of anticipation, and kind of the unknown is there, obviously, so people are wanting to watch it.
Do you have a gut feeling one way or the other? A prediction?
No. The only people I predict are my teammates. Outside of that, I just, if you ask me if it's one of my teammates, I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to win.
So how's Jones looking?
He's going to look great. You're doing great.
Yeah.
So when you study Misha's winning streak right now, the streak she brings in this fight, is there one fight in there that stands out to you that maybe she, you know, performed most impressively, or you think maybe she'll try to fight you that way, anything like that?
I try and take all of her good points out of each fight over the last 2 years. She's been on a winning streak, hasn't lost in 2 years, and each fight she's had these moments where she's done really well. You know, she dropped Jessica Ai with a strong overhand and clipped her just right. She's been able to have top pressure with someone like Sarah McMahon, who's, you know, a very high level wrestler. And so you look at these moments, it's like, okay, well, she's going to try and control me like that, and she's going to try and, you know, land a nice hand like that. So each fight that I see that she's done well with, I take that. She's done scrambles, you know, going for submissions and things like that. I take all the good things, and I expect that fighter. I expect the fighter that's going to do all of those things perfectly, and I need to be ready for it, and that's the best way that I feel to prepare for it.
And I think one of her own criticisms of her own fight game is maybe starting slow. Is that something you see that maybe you can take advantage of?
I expect the best from Bell 1. So, not every fight is the same, and if she's aware that she feels that way, then she may not be like that in the fight that we have. So I don't want to expect that to be something that, you know, comes. I think that with her, one of the biggest things that she's been able to do, which I think makes her one of the most, you know, makes me want to fear her as a fighter, is that she has been behind in round 1 and then wins round 2 and 3 and is never mentally beat. I really feel like that is probably, that makes it very much more fear for me in an opponent, as somebody that can't be mentally broken. Some people will just mentally give up if they already feel like they're behind.
Did you treat yourself to anything after the win?
I
Splurge on
was-
anything?
I went and bought a purse when we were in Australia. We were walking around. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
So lunch is about ready, so we'll,
Okay.
one more question, and then we can continue.
That was it?
talking.
Just a
Well,
purse?
okay, so, and then I wanted to get some wood floors in our living room, and we actually went and started picking them out. It's been a long process. You tried to pick out a wood floor before?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
This might be Tate's last title shot. You know, she struggled to get to this point for various reasons. Do you feel like that makes her more dangerous, and do you have to account for her potentially taking more risks than you've seen in the past?
I'll expect the best, because that's the only way I can prepare, but it depends on what she does with that mental game there. Because you can think, have I never been able to make it because why? You know, and then you start to deal maybe with doubt, or you think, no, this is my chance, I'm gonna make this happen right now. You know, there's like 2 different mind games you can play with that. She definitely, especially I think after, you know, she was supposed to have the 3rd fight with Ronda right when they, you know, then they announced that I was going to be fighting Ronda. So I feel like her being so frustrated with that and saying, you know, this was supposed to be my chance for the title, that now that she's having this second chance at it, since then, I mean, it'll be her 3rd chance of uniting. Just to have another chance after that opportunity being taken away, she's coming. I can guarantee you, she's training the hardest she's ever trained.
There was a report in USA Today a few months ago about a supplement company that you endorse producing banned substances. Was that accurate as far as you know?
As far as I know, I don't think there was anything banned. First off. Second off, I've had, I think, 6 drug tests in like 3 months. And I know that I'm always clean, so it actually, they kept trying to call me and they said, well, we're gonna put this article out, and you only have this much time to respond. And it's like,
Right.
okay, but you're still putting this article out. So if I respond, you're just attaching me to this article. I'd rather just not talk to you about it, and you can deal with it on your own, because guess what? I have drug results that speak, and I don't care what anybody else says about that. I don't support banned substances. I do not take banned substances, and I never have. And so for me, it was just so, when the article came out, everybody thinks, how do you feel about this? I said, I don't care, because I know I'm clean. It's like, it doesn't bother me at all. Drug administration comes on my doorstep at 6 a.m. I'm like, we'll at least get the good on them, guys. You know?
Your trainer, Mike Winklejohn had commented that you're kind of saving strategically some of your best for Ronda, leading up to your UFC performances. Can you speak to that strategy and that execution?
I feel like everything just kind of adds on and falls into place. You know, we worked on certain things for the first fight, certain things for the second fight, certain things for Ronda's fight, and I feel like everything that I've learned, like even this fight with Misha is different than the fight with Ronda, but everything I learned in my training camp with Ronda is still what we call tools in the toolbox. And so I think that just leading up to that fight, there's things that we hadn't touched on in the first 2 fights because we had different opponents, but I know that they knew that I was capable of doing a lot. I can't say that I was going in intentionally not doing what I could do in my first 2 fights. You know, I would never want to risk something like that and not get a victory. I'm going in 100%, but I feel like they've definitely helped me build the right steps at the right times, you know, to be prepared not only physically but mentally. And you know, I was there for each fight. I was wanting the victory for each fight, not just, you know, for the title. So.
What's been the best part of the last 3 months being the champ?
Just knowing that I did it. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities I've had. Everybody asks me, what's been the best? Well, the win. I mean, there's maybe people from the outside say, oh, you got to meet this celebrity and that celebrity, and you got to go here and experience this. And I'm like, yeah, but the win just tops it all. That's the best part, hands down.
You been hanging out with Jamie Foxx?
The win. I'm sorry, Jamie. He was really fun. He was really good. We had a great time with him. It was awesome, and he was awesome. He was probably how I expected too. He's very open, very fun, very wants to hang out. Took in my husband and I and a friend of ours and his girlfriend and just talked to us like we were just friends. And at one point I was sitting in his living room with all four of us were there, and he and his cousin were reenacting my fight. And I was like, this is a little crazy. I'll take it in. I didn't even want to get out my phone and I was like, I'm just gonna enjoy this. So.
Wait, was Jamie you or was his cousin you in the fight?
Jamie was me.
Okay.
I was curious, just because talking to some of your teammates, they talked about the reunion when you came back home and the experience of getting to share that with you when you got back. What was that like?
Oh, just.
It seemed like they were more happy for you than maybe even you were for yourself.
I remember being in Australia and just saying, I just can't wait to go to the gym because all of my teammates really believed I could do it. And that is what helped me to succeed. And I couldn't wait to go back and tell them thank you. Like I was wanting to see them and let them know, like, look what we did, because I couldn't have done it on my own. And so I think they took pride in the fact that they believed I could do it, and I did. And I just wanted to go back and tell them, thank you.
At the end of last year, you actually filmed a movie with Misha and Chris Cyborg, Fight Valley. Did you guys talk about possibly facing each other at any point? It's a small division. Did that come
at
up?
the time, I think their thoughts were a lot of people's thoughts where it was like, well, I want to fight Ronda. I'm going to fight Ronda. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, yeah. And I know that there was like the talk of maybe, Cyborg and Ronda. Awesome if that happens, but there could be a new champ coming up. So,
starting your career, you probably obviously had great wins. Which win reminds you of this last one? Of the feelings?
As far as my boxing career compared to,
In
or
general, yes.
For me,
Yes.
I think the two biggest. When I fought Christy Martin, I only had 12 fights. She had close to 50, and the odds were just that huge that I was going to get knocked out. And mentally to go through that kind of relief, similar, still not the same as this, but something that I think that helped me prepare for this. And then going back into the rematch after I got knocked out and going back and avenging my loss was huge. And that feeling after that was just kind of, with everybody doubting me and not thinking I could do it. The feeling after that was, great. And like I said, it's still not, they're all different situations. I don't really like to compare them too much because this was its own experience. But that kind of feeling after of just that really deep breath you can take and that feeling of a success felt very good.
Wolverine and Arlovsky are fighting in a couple months. Is that going to be hard on you guys?
So hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. The coaches have literally lost sleep over that one, but that's the fight to come. And we've actually had team meetings before, that this isn't something that we have to overlook. It could happen because we do have the best gym in the world, and we are producing great fighters. So we knew that this might happen eventually.
And they wanted you to fight Kaufman, right? At one point, they wanted you to fight Sarah Kaufman.
Right.
UFC.
Actually, I had that fight right before they changed, and that was actually awkward. Sarah and I talked on the phone about it, and I'm like, hopefully we're gonna see if they can put something else together. I mean, out of all the girls in the division, this is like the only one that I train with. So, I mean, and we always said, and even when I talked to Sarah, it was like, it's not like it's a title fight. I get if it's a title fight because there's only one person that has to have the title, but like all the other matchups, why do they have to make this one? There's plenty of other girls out there. And then when they called and said I had the, fight with Ronda, it was like, okay, it was a relief that I wasn't fighting my teammate, but also a bummer that she was out of a fight for a while until they got her another one, which they wound up getting her a fight in December. But yeah, it's not the first time we've kind of had to deal with something like that on our team, but this is a pretty big one. This is definitely, they were both kind of on this like big comeback streak, and who wants to knock the other one out of that? But we're, like I said, we're all in this sport for a reason. We want to reach to the top, and so we'll see what happens.
Before you Salah,
Yeah, I was
in
going to
every
say, I'm going to go to ESPN.
in every single sport, there is, even though it's whatever it is, a basket or a touchdown, a goal, a knockout, there is a percentage of merit on one side and mistake on the other side. In your case of this victory, how much credit do you get, and how much you can attribute to Ronda's overconfidence or lack of preparation or whatever?
I think she was prepared for that fight. I think that she maybe didn't think that I would be as prepared, but I'm not going to say that I beat Ronda because she just chose not to be into it on this one, I think that I had Ronda at she was on her streak, she was on a roll, she was doing well. And you don't achieve that without being prepared and without, being good at what you do. So, I don't want to, I think that a lot of people overlooked me, but I also know that she trained hard. I mean, before the fight, everybody says, Ronda's the hardest working fighter I've ever seen. She trains so hard, and then after the fight they're like, well, she had a lot of distractions. It's like, well, I don't know what it is, but I do know that I trained hard, and I know that that's what gets a victory. And a lot of people talk about, she had a lot of personal things maybe going on the side. I've had a lot of personal things going on in a fight before, and sometimes I used it as motivation. It's just like, I'm just gonna let this all out right now, and I'm just gonna get in there and do this, because one thing I do have is my fight. And that's something that I can do for me. And so, I don't know what the mental kind of game was, behind it, but it is what it is. I don't think that it was that she wasn't prepared. I think she trained very hard for me.
All right, I think we're going to eat for a little bit because we have a tight schedule. But
I think that's yours.
Joy?
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.